Okay, so now we come to maybe the video that in some ways like led to all these videos, because it showed me that this stuff all needs to be talked about. And for those that have been waiting for this video, thank you for your patience. I wanted to be in a place where I really took in the whole situation and really understood the ramifications and the what responsibility do I have, what obligations, if any. And anyway, for those that don't know, I made a best year-end dance awards. And the way that the contest was made was during a live stream with my audience. They suggested categories and they suggested nominees. And when we were getting, at some point, there was a discussion about there aren't enough females. Maybe we need a best female category. And I was against it. And I thought that people would be upset, which they were. And the audience disagreed with me, and ultimately I went with it. And part of the reason that I went with it definitely has something to do with my desire to have this dialogue begin, have this conversation happen. So I was promoting the contest, and I promoted it on Instagram. In the best female category, and Dassy and Marie Poppins in particular messaged me and were very unhappy and told me to take it down, and that's not my style, and so I didn't, and I invited them to come here and discuss it with me, because I think this is a very important conversation. And thus far, they have declined. And the only thing I don't like about the fact that they declined is they thought that as far as I know, their idea is that I want them to come here to discuss this to try to get views, to try to clout chase, so to speak. And I have some of that in me. And at the same time, I feel like it's a little bit like I feel like I've done so much on this channel to foster really deep conversations that it's a little disappointing that they would think that, especially considering I've also had people like more famous than them on. But nevertheless, I do understand it, and at some level, I get it and respect it. And at some level, all of that is neither here nor there. What was also interesting is that two other of the nominees, Eunji and Ringo from Korea and Japan, were grateful and promoted the contest. And then Angel just kind of said, Otis, I like you, but I don't think this is a good thing to pit kind of women against each other. And I thought that was a very valid response, and something that I think about. And there's a video of a social psychologist, I believe that's what he is, named Jonathan Haidt, on Joe Rogan, and he's talking about how social media has been really it's really affected women negatively more than men, because men tend to fight physically, but women are actually, according to science, just as violent as men, but the violence and aggression plays out socially. So things like sabotaging each other's social status, et cetera, which fake Instagram profiles to attack people is what he was saying is this is very common, especially among teen girls, and has led to like a lot of depression and anxiety and suicide attempts. And I think that as a guy, you don't really think about these things, and I think that it would be really good. You know, my audience is I according to the analytics, you know, it's more than 90% men, which I think is fairly common among YouTube in general, especially like this kind of, hip hop world kind of stuff. And I think that there are a lot of conversations that haven't happened in hip hop culture yet, and in the street dance culture around representation and the role of females. I've talked to so many females that talk about changing how they dress to be more baggy, so guys aren't just trying to get on them all the time. You have to imagine, if you're a female in the street dance world, there's got to be 10 guys for every woman. So if you're a good dancer, or you're attractive, or maybe you just have a vagina, there's going to be a lot of guys that are kind of all over you, right? And maybe you're just there because you want to dance and improve and so on. And it's like a whole thing you have to deal with that you don't have to deal with in the same way as a guy. And I think all of these conversations are really important. And I would love to still, I would still love to have these conversations in public. And one person that I've talked to about doing this with is Yaya Vankova, who had a lot of interesting things to say to me as well, as did Madeline Riley from The Lot. Salute to you, Madeline. So I think that my main message to the and for what it's worth, okay, let's back up from that. So when this backlash, which is what some people have called it, began, I was torn, right? I've been torn the whole time because I think about these things a lot. I think about race, class, and gender a lot, and my role in this culture and in life. And so I checked in with like a bunch of audience members of my channel, men and women and other dancers, mostly men, and asked, what they thought. And there was a pretty strong consensus that there should be a best female category because the skill level between men and women is very different, and there should be a place for women to be celebrated. So part of the reason that I went through with doing this in the first place was to show the female dancers who are offended or feel that there shouldn't be this category that not everyone agrees with you. And I think that that's a really important thing for feminists and people with liberal and progressive ideologies to really take in. Not everyone agrees with you. Street dance as a culture is biggest in countries like China and India and Asia in general, which are significantly more patriarchal. The Middle East, Turkey, these countries do not have the same understanding of feminism that Western countries do. And I understand the perspective of, let's just say, I'm going to project onto Western feminists of well, this is how we show them, And I don't agree with you. I think that in order for people to change, they need to empathize with the people who are being affected by their attitudes. So that was very vague. What I mean is, in order for men and non-feminist females to see the perspective of a feminist perspective, which I'm just calling it a feminist perspective. It doesn't necessarily have to even be the most accurate thing. That they need to see how this has affected you, of being marginalized or put off to the side. Because I really want to say, I see the perspective of not having a best female category tremendously. And if I were given a vote as to whether there should be a best female category, I would vote against it. But part of the role that I claim for myself is as a curator and aggregator of a broad a broad viewing of how people think. And so I kind of made the decision to go with the audience on this one because I think it will be a teaching and learning experience for all of us. And I think that in the long run, teaching and learning are significantly more effective to furthering a world where everyone feels like they have a right to be and feel respected and heard, much more than trying to tell people and clamp things down, which I don't think works at all. And I, in fact, will stand up against it because I believe in free speech, and I would rather be seen as some kind of like sexist than to go along with the clamping down of free speech. And that's a choice I've made. And, you know, I wasn't planning on saying this, but this one has hit really close to home because it has put into a sort of unknown place for me, at some level at least, my relationship with Jordan, who is, you know, Dassey's partner, and is kind of in between on this. And, you know, I think rightfully is like, bro, it's, you know, I go with her, and it's like, I would probably do the same thing. So this is not, I have skin in the game on this one. This is affecting my real life. And, you know, what's interesting or not is that most of the backlash has occurred among female dancers in Los Angeles, including people that I really like a lot. And in fact, every single one of those dancers that is in the backlash, I respect them and, you know, would much rather be friends with them than be hated by them, or, you know. And but I think that this is a battle worth fighting, I think, because I think that it takes, sometimes you got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. And I think that what hip hop culture in general needs is a lot of very uncomfortable conversations around sexism, around homophobia, around the glorification of violence and ignorance. And, you know, I really struggle with, like, who am I as a white guy to, you know, insert myself into these conversations or claim that they need to happen. And all I can say is, like, here I am, you know. I wanted to say I didn't choose this, but I did choose this. It's like, yeah, here I am. And I either am me, or I live a lie of trying to suppress myself to make other people happy. And I can't do it because my mental health suffers too much. So at some level, yes, I choose my own sanity over creating an easier, more sanitized version of myself for everyone else. And I think I'm making the right decision because I hope even this video fosters the beginning of a dialogue, you know? Should there be a best female category, right? Like, should it be best tutter, best waver, best female, right? I get it. I get that's like offensive. And, you know, I wonder how people would feel if there was like a best white guy category, right? Or like a best Asian category. Like, that was the only category where it was about a type of person rather than a type of movement. And so if it were up to me, there would be no best female category, and there may only be a handful of women in the contest, because I think that my other hope is that this really encourages women to be like, yo, you know what? This is bullshit, bro. Like, if you go to other dance forms, you go to contemporary, you go to ballet, you go to jazz, you go to hip hop, like, the women are the best, right? By and large. And when I see Summer Dance Forever in the hip hop prelims, the women are like killing it. So I can easily imagine a future where it's like pretty much 50-50. I don't know though, because popping, like the upper body stuff of flexing the muscles, maybe, this is a biological difference between men and women that traditionally men, not traditionally, like biologically men have stronger upper bodies. So I don't know, but I'm really excited to be involved in this conversation, even if the way that it started was kind of traumatic. And I think more than anything, I just want to make it really clear. I don't feel like I have any answers, and I don't feel like anyone I've talked to has any answers either. I think that these are the kinds of things that cultures have to kind of duke it out, hopefully in a communication way, not in a physical war way, to create new norms. And I think, message to the women out there, my platform is open to have these conversations with you on camera, not for clout chasing, but because I think that asking you your experience of this and giving you an opportunity to have this dialogue will really be a tremendous teaching and learning moment for like a very global group of people. And that those little seeds that are planted can ultimately, spread around the world, and the world can slowly begin to change, and maybe quickly. Because I just want to say, I really feel like a lot of the women that pushed back on this they have such a Western point of view that they don't even see that their perspective is beyond a minority outside of the Western world, which is way more than half the population. And I think in many ways it's kind of Eurocentric. If we're going to do jargon things, I think that your lack of seeing how things are elsewhere in the world and saying that it just needs to stop, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Even if this changes a little bit, it doesn't change people's perspective, because there's no conversion experience. There's no point where people learn to think in a new way. It's just suppression, and then suppression just builds up into a new wave of like reaction. Shivai, I think that's good. This is a wildly imperfect video, and just like I'm a wildly imperfect person, but I think that it's enough to at least spark discussion in the comments and maybe in the broader community about how gender roles should evolve or not evolve, or what they should be, and how we can, I think that more than anything, let's say you don't want to come on my channel, that's fine. I think that if I have any message for you, what I have seen is that dudes do not understand what it's like to be a woman in hip-hop culture. And if you can somehow, with or without me, make content that expresses the reality of your experience as a woman in this culture, then the world will evolve. And so I really implore you to do that.